Hey everybody, welcome back to Audio Cycling Velogames podcast, where today is just Dan and I on other people might join later on, to be fair, but we're doing this in the daytime rather than our usual kind of nighttime slot. But we're going to be taking a look at the Velogames Spain today, the last Grand Tour, big opportunity to get lots of points. I guess, Dan, how have your Grand Tours gone so far?
Oh, that's a really good question. I can't remember. I think Giro was fine because I had Pogacar
Yeah.
and probably Danny Martinez. Tour de France went really well, from what I remember. I had somebody didn't do very well, and then that kind of dragged me down. It was probably Roglic, actually. Yeah, no, I think I did all right. I think he's in the stage race championship. I'm still like 300, so I've done okay.
Yeah, I'm about 300th at the moment. That's because the Tour of Poland is dragging me up. Although, to be fair, based upon today's results, because I don't really have a sprinter, I might have gone down a little bit. But
well, I went with you, or at least your video, and picked Merlier, and he came 5th today. So it's like, there's still
bad.
two more.
And
But
I
yeah,
swapped
it's
like Merlier and Plowright, who were 5th and 9th today, for like Groschartner and Magnier. If I would have gone like Zambanini or something instead, that would have been better. But
Zambanini's just such a random one. Like it's one race a year that he shows up for. It's like, okay, sure, why not?
But anyway, I'm not going to get sidetracked too much onto the Tour of Poland. We'll actually take a look at the.
It maybe says about what we think of the Vuelta.
Yeah, literally. So what we got is in the all-rounder category. Obviously, like you said, Roglic. I don't know about Roglic. You know, he's just. I don't know. I'm very much in two minds. I've had a couple of drafts where I've had him in, but he's just a little bit like, crashes a bit.
You've looked at the parkour?
Yeah, I have, but I do think the thing is that Roglic is like Mr. Vuelta España, isn't he? Like he is probably gonna be just fine. But
Well, he's going for the joint record. I think it's Contador and I forgot his name now. Is it the Swiss guy? That's bad. I've got to look that up. Yes. Anyway, he's going to the joint record of 4, I think.
really,
yes, and he wanted that was part of the thing last year with the triple Visma disaster. Was obviously he was there to win and he wanted to win, and obviously he would have equaled it last year. It's just so many summit. There's summit finishes, but a lot of them are just 8Ks, 9% or something. So
yeah,
by Vuelta standards, those are summit finishes.
yeah. I think. Do you reckon that top 3 there, Roglic, Almeida, Yates? Do you reckon is that the podium?
Yeah, pretty much. It's not to discredit anyone else in that group, but all of those I see having a bad day or dropping, not dropping, getting dropped, not cracking. And there's a massive price gulf. I don't think we've seen 6 credits difference between the top 3 and the rest before. I mean, I think there's a lot of value there to be positive. Like with the time trials, you got Arensman. Arensman will be up there from early in GC. So there's that. McNulty as well. But it's just McNulty and Vine and that, they're all going to be domestiques. So I don't know how much that's going to really do much.
Yeah, I think that does influence what I've been thinking. Is that I've been thinking a lot about putting like McNulty on or like Soler or just a lot of the UAE riders, because I think about how Soler has had a lot of freedom in the past in the Vuelta especially, and whether that's just like going to be the case for lots of UAE Team Emirates riders, but it's just like on rotation, they're just always in the breakaways, because there are a lot.
It depends who's. Yeah, it depends who's. I think it depends who's in the leader's jersey, because there'll be a bit of early on. You'll have a time trialist will wear it. Obviously, a time trial specialist will wear it on stage 1, probably Tarling, and then you've got the battle with the sprinters to potentially take it then, and then it's going to be either Bora have a very strong team to control it, so potentially they could do that, and then UAE, send Soler, and there's a handful that will go for breakaways like Vine and McNulty and Soler. I'm just not sure their value at 10 if they're going to be helping.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think, yeah, Vine and McNulty have the slight advantage where they get the TTs in there, so
Vine could even win the time trial because obviously
Yeah.
with that he won the time trial in Burgos against Affini, and Affini obviously is no slouch. In this field, I think Affini and Vine would be up there as well anyway. Obviously, Burgos is the warm-up race for this one. So I think Vine could well win the time trial. I mean, not will. He'll top 3 the time trial probably, and then I find when it starts with a race like this, like a time trial like this, like with the team time trial in the past, you always want that one rider who he's a time trial specialist, but isn't necessarily a bad climber. So they'll just slowly drop, like a Castroviejo, for example, where they'll get like top 5, top 10, and then slowly slip down to 15th over the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's so true. I do wonder about, do you reckon, I know obviously like Almeida and Yates are the big leaders for the team, but do you see a world where Vine and McNulty can still hang on to like a top 10, or do you reckon they just like pull the plug and just like, no?
Thing is, whilst they could,
they're
going to have to do so much work on these steep finals that once they've done their X number of kilometers at 6.5 watts per kilo, they're just going to pull the pin like a Castroviejo used to do. Not Castroviejo, like a Kwiatkowski used to do back in the day. And then you'll just have Roglic and Martinez and Vlasov and Yates, Almeida, Del Toro flying up the road. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's still. I think you've got a massive gulf because we won't move on to the climate categories just yet, but you've got the 6 credit ones that I've got to get the top guys here, and they could probably still finish ahead of them in GC.
That's very true. Yeah, you got a lot of those 6 credit climbers. There are some very good ones in there who I think will get past the mythical 100 points per credit bracket. And we'll talk more about that. I think the problem, if you're wanting, say, 2 of these top 3 riders, which is probably a pretty smart move to be making, considering that those 3 are the favourites to be finishing on the podium. Although I saw betting odds that Kuss is second favourite, which I don't really agree with. I feel like whoever is in charge of the bookies is just lost a plot. Like they don't actually.
I don't understand that.
No, but
like no disrespect to Kuss, I think he'll still do well. But
yeah,
Almeida there's 2. There's a 11K time trial, and then there's the 21. Is it 21K time trial on the last day?
Yeah, that last day.
So, I mean, this isn't Burgos. It's
yeah, literally. I think So the problem is, if you want 2 of them, I think you need to sacrifice Wout van Aert. I think it's quite hard to get big ones.
Not to jump ahead, but my 2 drafts are 2 strong GC and Wout, and 3 strong GC and no Wout. So it's just weighing up how. I mean, there are a lot of uphill finishes, and there aren't many of everything else. So once Wout potentially has won a sprint or 2 and locked in the points jersey, just accumulating those points versus someone who might finish top 10 on every single mountain stage.
So I've seen a lot of deliberation. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. But Yates and Almeida, let's say somebody's picking Roglic and they're like, yeah, absolutely certain on that. What's your 2 cents on the Almeida or Yates dilemma? If somebody was to pick one, which one would you be going with?
Well, at the moment, I've only in my 2 drafts picked Yates because I think he's the 2nd or 3rd best pure climber in the world, and you need to be a pure climber for this Vuelta because there's so many steep finishes. But Almeida he'll be up there early from the time trial. So in my head, Yates could come like 10th or something on the time trial. It's like, well, that's great, fine, but Almeida's going to be 2nd or 3rd, 4th, and it's just those. You've got to think of that mindset of just accumulating more points from earlier. So I might just take Almeida because he'll do a good TT stage 1. But in a Twitter predictions thing, I've got Yates for like 5 stages. So
I mean, actually,
yeah, because it's going to be either Roglic or Yates for a lot of those uphill finishes, and Yates can. We saw it when he won. We didn't win UAE Tour, sorry. Remco won, but when he won the stage at UAE Tour, he just went from like 8k to go. He's got that insane engine. He just looked like he's not that he's not trying, but he just looks so like locked in. Whereas I don't see Almeida climbing like that. Almeida's just here's the pace. I'm going to hold this for 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's why Almeida was so good in like Tour de Suisse, because those climbs are just perfect for him. That like 8%, Almeida's really good.
I think if that Tour of Poland Almeida from a few years ago showed up, where he won all those punchy finishes, and we were like, I think it was the first year it wasn't broadcast, and we were like, how is he winning all these sprints against, Elise and stuff, or whoever it was? No, it wasn't Elise. It was Quintana and a few other people. I mean, fair enough. You say you want to sprint against Quintana, you're sure, obviously, but if that Almeida is here, then decent puncher.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to that Almeida. He disappeared. That Almeida, which fought tooth and nail in that first Giro that he did, where he was in.
Well, it was so weird. We had the Almeida that only a handful of hipsters had heard of, who top 3'd that TT at like 120 to 1, and then held it for a few weeks. And then a couple of years later, he moved from Quick Step to UAE, and then he's doing all this punchy stuff. And he didn't. He won the sprint. He won the sprint against Geraint Thomas at the Giro as well. So in this field, he's actually probably quite fast.
Yeah, it probably is actually. I think, kind of getting a bit nerdy with the top 3. Basically, if they are the podium finishers, they will all be worth it, because you see with the podium finishers of pretty much every Grand Tour, if you're on the podium, you get pretty much over 2,000 points. If you're the winner, you can creep towards 3,000-ish, I would say. So, in theory, all of these are worthwhile people to be going with, because if you think that these are the people who are going to finish on the podium, they are going to get their 100 points per credit quota, and they will likely also exceed it. But
if this makes sense, I think Roglic and Almeida are more likely to be the top scorers because they'll be up there earlier from the TT. But I think Yates is more likely to win the race overall than Almeida.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Almeida could lead early on, and maybe I'm getting a bit too caught up with that. I'm thinking about, points early on. But long term, Yates could definitely be the guy, when it gets to those 3Ks at 13%. I think I trust Yates to be better at that. But I think that's the top 3. Basically, they are all good. Roglic is a little bit like, how's he doing after the Tour crash and stuff? But he's Mr. Vuelta. But outside of them, what other people in this all-round category really catch your eye? Because I think maybe... Right now, I'll just let you say. Who do you think is good?
Without the Tour de France in the back of my head, I really like Carlos Rodriguez. He's one of my favourite GC riders, especially after that stage win last year at the Tour. I just think he's been a bit flaky recently, because he is one of those. He's like a bit like a mass. He's very skinny. He's either there or he's not. No in between. I do like Skelmos, to be fair. Like that Tour de Suisse, the guy that won Tour, he did win Suisse last year, didn't he? That Skelmos, I would pick probably maybe over an Almeida or a Yates, because he could be punchy like Roglic, but I think he'll get dropped. He'll lose time on the harder mountain stages. And unfortunately, I really like Thymen Arensman, just because of the old links I have to him back when he was on SCG. And I interviewed him before he went to Ineos. And he does usually do very well at the Vuelta, but it's often when he's lost time and he goes for stages. So I think he's like Almeida in that he'll probably get good points early on, because he could be top 5 in the time trial, because it's a very Ineos time trial where it's just flat. that didn't make sense. Anyway, yeah, I think he'll be fine. I just don't know how good he'll be long term in the race. And then Teo's been ill. Didn't Teo have COVID or something?
Yeah, didn't he crash in Burgos
or
as
maybe
well?
He crashed. It's bad.
Just,
I can't
it's
remember.
been really bad for Teo.
It's not been a good year. He's been cursed. I mean, I really like Teo. Again,
yeah.
It's like there's no one really in this list I don't like. It's just you've got those three at the top. And I'm just like, well, I can't afford any of these if I want to get. Well, I'm not picking any of these if I've been picking them. So
yeah, I do agree. I agree. I like Skelmos. I think that he has had some very good results this year in the stage races. He's very punchy. I'm not too afraid of him on the steep sections either, because he did. What was it? Did he finish behind? Who won Flesh Alone? Was he just behind Roglic or something in Flesh Alone last year? Or something? He was podium on Flesh Alone, wasn't he?
Potentially, yeah. He was pretty one of those. Pretty why he was hyped up for this year.
Yeah, so he is punchy. You are right, and he is a very good time trialist. I'm thinking, calling back to that Tour de Suisse you were just saying last year. In that final TT, Ayuso won. I think Remco was second, and Skelmos was literally like within 5 seconds of April. Like he is very good. But I think you're right. It's those long climbs which are going to do him in. But there's not loads of them. There are quite a few climbs which are like 8Ks, and I think the Skelmos is kind of within.
I think it's just the percentages, because once it gets over 9-10%, you're getting into a kind of a different bracket of climber. And I mean, Skelmos is small enough. I think he's in that sort of 60 to 65 kg bracket. And he's got the time trial pedigree, so it could be a bit like a Almeida where he just hangs on. I think Skelmos is more likely to be good on these finishes than Teo is. But then Teo's had a really badly disrupted year, so I feel like unfortunately Teo's a bit of a write-off. Especially as they got Ciccone and Skelmos. So he might get a chance later on as a stage hunter if he's feeling all right. But
I agree. And then, like you're saying, a Rensman usually gets over 1,000 points in Velogames.
He'll be worth the credits. It's just that he's in that category where you probably, if you're picking him as a wild card option at the end.
Yeah, I agree. So a Rensman will be fine. Like he will get 200 points from the TTs or whatever, worst case. So he needs 800 points. He'll just get those daily GC points. He'll get like 200-ish of those. So he only needs to score 600 more points. Like it's very doable.
I feel like he's just renewed at Ineos as well, hasn't he? I feel like that was announced quite recently. So it's kind of the first Grand Tour he's had an opportunity to show himself since re-signing. So there's always that, if that counts for anything.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, Taberi is almost in a similar bracket where he, he's quite, he's that time trial, secure points, and then he'll do okay in GC sort of guy. So but he's similar to a Rensman, but I have more faith in a Rensman to not crack. Taberi, I've just got a little bit of like cautiousness about.
Well, Taberi, I think Taberi's still quite young as well. So he's still. I mean, I think the Giro. This was his. I'm not sure. It wasn't his first Grand Tour, but I think it was the first Grand Tour he went for GC. The Giro just gone.
Yeah, he did the Vuelta last year. He was 6 credits actually last year.
Yeah.
Unclassified.
So I think I mean, it shows that how hyped other riders are, that they are more expensive than Taberi because they haven't shown it yet. But I still think 10 is fine, especially considering he's sandwiched between Brandon McNulty and Jay Vine, who won't be going for GC and at the same price. I think it's just the fact that it starts with a TT.
Yeah, exactly. I think McNulty and Vine will do very good time trials, but then they'll drop out of GC, but they have the freedom of them. They might be able to go for stages, which could get them more points, but that is risky. Like you're then gambling on those people getting in the breakaway, doing well in the breakaway. There's a lot of unknown quantities to be factoring into picking breakaway riders, especially ones who are like 10 credits. Like
you got to remember as well, I think it was 2 years ago at the Vuelta, Jay Vine won like 3 stages from the breakaway with Alpecin. And it's like, well, he's never going to be able to do that ever again. So it might even be that case now where he just goes, well, I'll go for the TT and slide down GC because he knows he probably won't be allowed to get in a breakaway.
Yeah, but he could still finish. Yeah, like top 15, and UE are probably going to win the team classification as well. So
they always do.
They get those extra few points, which do add up at the end. It's
like
of the day.
What, six points a stage or something?
I think it's 8 in Grand Tours.
Okay, yeah.
So it's 8, and then you get that from what stage? Stage 4.
The first few mountain stages onwards.
So you get it from stage 4. So you get like 15 stages worth. So that's like 120 plus the bit at the end. That's like 170 per rider. You know, it's not right.
Wasn't it the tour? There was the early in Velogames France, because we're not allowed to call it the other thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like midway through week 2 or something? Like 8 of the picks were UAE riders, and it was the number 1 team in the world. It's just like you get their main GC guy, and then all the domestiques, and they're just a queue farming point.
Pretty much, yeah. I wouldn't be picking Vlasov, but just because he crashed at the Tour, and he's gone up in price from a Tour. Like he was 8 credits there, he's 10 here, and he's also got Danny Martinez and Roglic ahead of him, I think. So I wouldn't be picking Vlasov when you got the safety of like a Rensman and Taberi and whatever around him. You got Caruso and Soler, who literally is just his own entity within the team. You never know what he's going to do. He can just he is just a complete maverick. Maybe he'll do really good. Maybe he won't do. It's hard to gauge.
I think he'll have a lot of credit in the bank from the Tour, because he did. I mean, no one really talked about it that I saw, but because obviously you had Pollitt and Wellens doing their roulerie stuff, but the next man after them was Soler, and then Sivakov. And Soler was, you had a bit of the fracas with Ayuso not doing enough work, but Soler was like, I know my job, I'm doing it. It's like we've never seen this Soler before, actually doing team orders. So I think he'll probably have so much credit in the bank that, I mean, there's a few stages that suit him in that there's hills, and then there's a downhill to a flat finish, which really suit him. Yeah. So he might get, and also UAE not having the strongest flat support, or general rouleur support. They've just got Baroncini and then Soler and Sivakov. I think, again, it's the problem with the category. He's in there with all those other people that him winning at a stage or 2 maybe is a bit risky.
Yeah, I see a good sort of 4 or 5 stages which are quite suited to Marc Soler, but then again, they're probably also suited quite well to McNulty or something as well. So it's hard to tell. And then you got the last ones at the bottom: Aran, Jonas Aguirre, Eddie Dunbar, De Plus, and Costa. I mean, if you needed to pick one of these, I'd be going with De Plus. Personally, I think that he looked good during the Tour. He got 400-ish points during the Tour by not really doing all of much. He finished like top 5 on one stage and finished 15th in GC, and that ended up with 400 points. So I think
he's fine. And he'll get assist points for Tarling on stage 1. If that counts for anything.
So
Aran, if you're feeling nostalgic, it's his last Grand Tour.
That's true.
Costa, if you fancy a bit of stage hunting.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Eddie Dunbar and his gear don't do anything for me at all. So there you go.
No. So that's that. But there's a lot of but if you're be in a bit of a weird spot if you're picking one of these, I think, because you probably want to be investing quite heavily in the GC here. I think if you're missing out on, I think you really need to be looking at going with like one of the big guys and probably nothing lower than a 10. Ideally, as I wouldn't be going.
I think George has been quite kind putting the top 3 in one category.
Yeah.
Because if I was being sneaky, I'd put Yates in climber. But he hasn't, so it's whatever. But yeah.
But speaking of climbers, let's go and take a look at those. Obviously, there's last year's winner Sepp Kuss at 20 credits.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be selecting him because
watch him win now.
It's just a multitude of reasons. Like, he's not going to be allowed in a breakaway, which is kind of how Sepp has kind of remained.
Well, it's how he won last year.
Yeah, it's how he won.
Controversial to say that.
And it's like the only performance I've really seen him do this year is Walter Burgos. and at 20 credits, he needs to be finishing on the podium. And I would say that I prefer Yates, Almeida, and Roglic.
I think if he was the same price as Mikel, I think his price is inflated because he won it last year, which is fair enough. You know, to a casual, you go, well, he must have won it last year because he's 20 credits. But if he was just regular set Kuss, he'd probably be the same price as Landa. I don't see any value in Kuss at 20 at all.
Cool. I agree. Enric Mas is the same. For years, Enric Mas has been 10, 12 credits, and now he's 16. What's happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
George, what's happened? Enric Mas is now 16 credits.
I think George was just double checking their histories in the Vuelta, and he's seen that Mas has got like 3 second places at the Vuelta. So it's like historical credits. I don't remember how many credits Chris Froome was when he was coming back and came back to the Tour, but I feel like it's that sort of, well, he was good once, so he's 16.
It's like the quality remains. Like it's hard to once you go past a certain level, it's hard to get like brought down. The price ranking is the way that the pricing seems to work. So I mean, for me, I'm not going to be picking Mas at 16.
For the sake of Movistar, he has to do well because they're not doing amazingly at the moment. No. They're probably not going to get dragged into relegation for next year, but like they have basically been living off their Vuelta performances and Tour de France performances for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. They've also got they got Rubio a bit further down. Maybe he could do something as well.
Yeah,
I honestly have the same amount of faith in Enric Mas as I do with Heiner Rubio to do.
To be fair, Rubio has showed more the last 2 years than Mas has.
He has,
and he's won more.
Yeah, it's so true.
I can't remember the last time Mas won anything.
Well, I still remember back to what was it, 2018 Vuelta, where he beat Miguel Angel Lopez.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, he was 10 credits there. I don't know why I remember that. That was 6 years ago. I don't know why I remember he was 10 credits. He just was. It's those cheap ones you need to be looking out for. Actually, those are the killer ones. That 10 credit, 8 credit area is like the killer because those people can easily get over 100 points per credit. But we'll get onto those in a second. Mikel Landa with their new T-Rex jersey.
Yeah, I love it. It's so stupid. I love
it. It's so random. I don't know where it's come from.
So T-Rex is glue that Soudal makes.
Is it?
So it makes sense. It was just I saw their roster reveal and it was like a Jurassic Park AI graphic, and I was like, well, that makes no sense. And then I saw the New Jersey, and they're like, we've now. They didn't say why. They said we've changed our name to that, and then I had to go hunting for it to try and find. It's like, oh, it's glue. Okay, sure. It's like when what was it? Lotto Soudal changed their name, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, which I can't remember now. So it was that memorable. But T-Rex is at least memorable.
Yeah,
well, they should be signing the Rex brothers today, shouldn't they? Laurens and Tim.
Oh, I imagine that'll be really cool.
Yeah, perfect marketing opportunity.
Do you think he's worth it at 14 credits?
I think Landa's always worth. Well, I'm going to preface this with not always, but Landa is usually value at the Vuelta because it's he's so good on these. He basically trains on these steep climbs. Like there was that GCM video a few years ago where he was training in the Basque Country on these really short, well, not short, steep climbs, 5-6K steep climbs. There was that year at Bahrain. I don't know if you remember. Jack Hay was going for his 5th or whatever it was overall against Simon Yates, probably. And Landa was in the breakaway, I think, or was trying to bridge to the breakaway and did one of his classic attacks. And it was like, oh, he's Landissimo's back. And then he cracks and then lost 50 minutes or something. It was just like, what are you doing? Your GC leader is 5th. It's like, what are you doing? But no, I do like him. Now that he's been very solid recently. So, I think he's fine. I'm not sure you can afford him if you're going for the top 3 favourites, but I still think he's a decent. Honestly, top 5 is definitely within reach for him.
Yeah, I think top 5 is possible. I have this fear that I think at 14 credits, I think he can hit 100 points per credit, but I think
he'd have to probably
it's like
either win a stage or top.
Yeah,
he'd have to be hanging with the other three top contenders the whole time.
Yeah, but I just wonder if there are people in this category who might go over 100 points per credit, who could be even better. Not saying that Lander's going to be a bad pick. I'm saying Lander's going to be good, but there could just be like exceptional picks in this category. Carapaz apparently is going for GC. They're talking a big game in their press release on their website, saying he's going for red.
Well, at least they tell the truth in their press releases. Like they said, he was going for stages at the Tour, and he did. But yeah, I think he always goes for GC at the Vuelta. Just takes me back to Froglich, the original Froglich, when he was fighting Carapaz for GC and multicolored layers. The only problem with Carapaz is the time trials. He could still win a few stages, to be honest, because he's got that punch to beat Roglic on these finishes. I just don't think he could podium, but I don't think he will. I think he's another top 5, decent top 5 shout. And I don't know why he's 2 credits cheaper than Landa. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, yeah. And to be the same price as Del Toro, that I don't get that at all. But that's because Del Toro is way more expensive.
Yeah. I think
there you go.
Yeah. I said this in my last video, but the beauty of Carapaz is that he'll go for GC. And if he drops out, he's shown that he's very, very adept at going for stages anyway. So or the KOM.
Well, he's that kind of guy. I mean, to go to a proper throwback, got to Landa doing the Giro in 2016 with Team Sky, and as soon as he drops out of GC, the next day he goes for the KOM jersey and then wins like 3 stages. So it's that kind of rider.
Yeah, I think that Carapaz and Landa are pretty much very similar. So Carapaz being 2 credits cheaper, I'd say, is a slightly better value for money. Considering that, I'd say Carapaz on paper is a top 5 candidate, but it's just a guy underneath him who really is throwing a spanner in the works, and that is Del Toro.
It's just a shame we don't get white jersey points.
Yeah, if you got white jersey points, Del Toro would be so worth it. Just like the long and short of it, do you think that Del Toro is worth it at 12?
I will say yes.
Okay.
Simply because I know he's got a good time trial, so he should be fine to be up there early. And also the fact he hasn't done it already, because he hasn't, and this is his debut Grand Tour. But at Tirreno, people were confusing him for Almeida in the way he was riding, because he'd be falling off the back and then he'd just tempo his way back and drop and come back. So he knows how to ride tempo on mountains already. I'm not sure. Looking at the rest of, there's so many good options in that 10-12 bracket.
Yeah,
it's a risk. There's at least 3 other riders I'd rather pick than Del Toro. But it's also that thing of wanting to say you've picked Del Toro and then he goes off and he comes 3rd or wins or something.
I'm just thinking back. Obviously, this is exactly the same price that Pogačar was 5 years ago when he first debuted in the Vuelta, and I'd say that Del Toro is on a pretty similar trajectory career-wise to Pogačar.
Yeah,
I didn't pick Pogačar then, and also when a user made his debut as a UAE Team Emirates rider in the Vuelta when he was 10 credits a couple of years ago, I didn't pick him then, and I regretted that. And I'm like, am I going to make it 3 out of 3? Like, is Del Toro going to do the business? I do think that there's just more leadership ahead of him in this team, and is he just a very expensive domestique who is going to score you like 800 points? Like, he'll do good in the TTs and the assists and stuff, and I don't know. I think it's a bit of a risk. I would rather, from a safety point, go with Carapaz.
Yeah,
but I can understand people wanting to go with Del Toro. And
there's a crazy scenario in my head where Roglic crashes out and it's a 1-2-3 for UAE Team Emirates.
Yeah.
It's not crazy if it happens, but because not like Roglic doesn't crash. But it's a fun pick, and it's like one of those where if you just want to have a fun pick and you want to pick him, and it's like when you're playing fantasy football and there's a new sparkly toy and you want, like, I want to pick him because it'll be fun to watch, and if he goes off it'll be annoying because I wanted to pick him, then it's FOMO, pick him.
It is. It is a complete FOMO pick, isn't it? I think he'll finish. I think he will finish top 10 GC.
Yeah,
I
think he'll win the white jersey.
Yeah, I reckon he could.
He's up. Most of the people he's up against are in this category. It's Brooks, Paul, Van Eyck-Bell. There's probably one massive one that I've forgotten.
Rodriguez, C-Rod.
No, I think C-Rod and Aaronsman are both over that category.
Oh dear.
I need to check that before I get that catastrophically
wrong. What for your cycling fantasy app points?
Yeah.
I know. I think I've got Del Toro on that one because.
Damn it! Yeah, Aaronsman and Rodriguez are both qualified for white jersey. That's going to be a tight contest.
It is, isn't it?
I just think he's going to get the freedom to just hang at the back of the group and not work for.
You are right. There are so many other good riders in UAE who could do the domestique.
They've got like 4 other domestiques. I think they've got Vine, McNulty, Sivakov, Soler, Baroncini. There's 5 guys. It's like, does Del Toro really have to do anything? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it just get a bit PCM ridiculous when you've basically got 4 riders at the front and 3 of them are your leaders. But it's UAE for you, isn't it?
Yeah, are people thinking are UAE thinking, well, we could try win the race and we could also try win the white jersey as well, and it's just we're going to try get everything, and it is just it's like
the point where they're they've got GC sewn up by the end because Roglic has crashed out. And it's like, right, we're riding we're all supporting Del Toro today, so we're all going to drop top Aarons and Rodriguez. I think, God, we are just playing PlayStation here, aren't we?
Yeah, literally. But anyway, in theory of dwelling on Del Toro too much. Because we could do all day. Brooks. Nah.
If you've got white jersey points, I could pick him, but at the same price as he's shown more, he has more pedigree.
Yeah.
He has more recorded results than Del Toro, in that he's come basically mid top 10 GC on every World Tour race he's done, which is it's a plus in his column. I'm just not interested in picking him because he's not. I don't think he's worth 12, if that makes sense. Because he's not going to win in any stages, really.
Because was it last year when he was at Bora when he went? Was that actually last year? I picked him last year, I think. When he was Bora, he was 10 credits and he got like 800-ish points. Like that's what he's going to get. He's going to get you 800, 900 maybe.
He is like the new Wilco Kelderman, where he's just going to sit there and tempo his way to a top 10. It's like
he is.
You're great, but you're not very useful to me in fantasy.
Yeah, I would go with Carapaz or Del Toro before him, pretty much. 10 credits. You got Ciccone, Gal, O'Connor, Poole, and Van Eyck-Bell. It's like this is the proper risk versus reward category. This is where we're at with 10. I think at this point, honestly, I think Ben O'Connor's really good value here.
I think he's way underpriced.
10 credits.
He's the one that should be 16 and Matt should be 10.
Yeah. People will probably look over O'Connor and be like, oh, he's not actually that worth it. But if he does anything similar to what he did at the Giro, which, let's face it, wasn't like massively over the top impressive. It was just a decent performance. He got like 1,400 points there. It's very possible that O'Connor can get over 1,000 points here. And I think that's...
He's leaving to go to Jayco to be their GC, their sort of marquee Australian GC leader on an Australian team. So that's not the price of a GC leader. So, I mean, I'm probably not going there unless I ditch Wout. But I mean, if, in shape Ben O'Connor turns up, we know he doesn't have the most amazing relationship with the decathlon management, but from the Unchained documentaries. But, the other alternative is that he falls out with a team and then has a really bad day and DNFs and then, oh, well, never mind, off to Jayco.
The promising sign is that if he was like 11th at San Sebastian, he was in the same group as McNulty.
Oh, yeah.
So he's clearly in decent enough shape where he was hanging on in a very tough one-day race. So that's a good sign. And I would say that of these 5-10 credit riders, I'd say that he's the safest. If you're wanting a little bit of risk and a little bit of spice in your life, go with like a Pool or a Van Eytveld, even though you don't get white jersey points. But both of those are like the hot young property. You know, Pool was good in Burgos. Dan knows this. He was on his fantasy cycling team. And Van Eytveld, third at San Sebastian, won UAE Tour earlier this year. You know, he's really exciting as well. Obviously, he did this race last year, but he was a 6 credit unclassified rider. And that's why I'm a little bit like, oh, he did fine there, but is he going to be that much better this year? I don't know.
He's also coming off a knee injury.
Yeah,
he is coming off a knee injury. Yeah, he is. There's loads of cyclists at the moment that seem to be coming off knee injuries.
I can just see Van Eytveld again getting like 700, 800 points, you know, maybe dropping GC a little bit, going in, getting a couple of top 5s in breaks, but then finishing like 13th in GC. And like he'll be good, but not brilliant. And Pool, sort of similar as well. They're not like big favourites in GC where they're on the fringes of the top 10 for me. And I think they could very well be worth it, but I would say that O'Connor is a more surefire GC prospect. So
yeah, well, he's the odd one out in this group because I think all the others aren't solid GC picks, but could finish top 15 and then go for a stage or go for all the breakaways in like the second and third, week, third week. I mean, there's a couple I don't like at all, like Felix Gao, but then that's just because I'm very biased. Because
you just don't like his riding style.
I'm sure he's a lovely guy. He does nothing for me. Max Poole, obviously, I really like because he's from Yorkshire. And he's got a good time trial. But I think Ciccone is quite good for the shorter, punchy climb finishes. Like he could, he's beaten Roglic. I'm fairly sure a few times, not a few, maybe at least once. He's beaten Roglic. At least once I remember, he's beaten Roglic. So he could be fine. But then there's got 3 other Trek leaders. So
they might go for Skelmos from those punchy kicks.
I think they're all fine. They're all. I mean, Felix Gao will probably be fine, like because he'll probably go for KOM jersey or something. But
yeah, pretty much. 8 credit riders in the climber category. Who do you think? Obviously, there's quite a few of them here. There's some of them who you probably won't pick, but which ones do you think are the best?
In my first draft, I had David Gaudu because 8 credits for David Gaudu is madness. So I had him over Lorenzo Fortunato at one point because I thought Gaudu's another one. I mean, remember Gaudu beat Wout van Aert in an uphill sprint at the Dauphiné a few years ago. So it's just unfortunate that he showed absolutely nothing. So since he crashed uphill at Paris-Nice, he's done absolutely nothing, which is a talent, honestly. I shouldn't laugh. I really like Gaudu. I think he could easily outscore. Like he's going to get way over 800 points. 800 points surely. Leipowitz, I do like as another one of these sort of Del Toro types, but the problem is Red Bull Bora are all for Roglic, and they've got loads of other domestiques. So he's going to be one of these. Like you're free now to go for a breakaway because we've either he wants someone to go up the road. Roglic wants someone to go up the road. Or he's just free to do his own thing, which I don't see happening. Because as I watched the Visma All In Netherlands documentary on Prime, and Roglic is not a fan of teammates doing their own things.
Is he not? Oh, that's good info. I also think that Leipowitz, when I've looked actually,
he basically when Koos is in red. When Koos is in red, Roglic is like, I'm here to win, and it's like, your teammates in red, by the way. Anyway, enough of that controversy. The rest, it's just a load of throwing darts at the wall. Like Guillaume Martin, good climber, good puncher. I mean, he hates Cofidis now, and Cofidis hate him, so that's a great relationship. VPP is always good. He won a stage at the Giro. All of Movistar could be anything. I feel like Riccitello has been hyped up from early in the year because I swear he did something early in the year and then didn't go to the Tour, like everyone wanted him to.
Tour
I
de
forgot what that
Suisse.
was now. Oh, Tour de Suisse. Okay. Was that when that was the one Adam Yates and Almeida came 1-2 in, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest is just so much of a muchness, isn't it? It's what can you afford with the credits you've got left from everything else.
Yeah, you're kind of blending more into stage hunters here rather than GC riders. Like you've still got a couple of those GC guys in there, like Godu or Rubio, maybe Riccatello. But then you got those more breakaway guys, like Lipovitz. I looked like he literally only does well when it's 6 or 7%. That's it. I went and looked at all the times where he did well, like Sibiu Tour, Romandy. Like he just only does well when it's that percentage gradients. So obviously
he's probably
30%.
a bit bigger, isn't he? Because that stage
Yeah.
that he came second to Carapaz, I think.
Yeah.
Romandy, he's just got that one gear and just goes with it. And then once Carapaz attacked, he had nothing. So
yeah, I think Riccatello could be a bit of a surprise. I think his benefit is that he has done a Grand Tour before. He did Vigiro last year, so he's not like a debutant. But trying to get like 800 points is going to be a bit tricky.
I think with a lot of these guys, 800 points is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I think
even a handful of the 600s, I think the sixes are all right. Godu is basically the only one, and that's based on. I mean, we were saying about pedigree. Like he's someone who, if Mass is 16, why is he 8? But imagine having 2 Godus for the price of 1 Mass. It's like,
yeah, that's true. So you got a little bit. It's just a bit of risk going on here, but there's definitely some people who are little gold dust within the I don't know, ashes. That's such a weird saying.
That's a weird analogy.
6 credit riders, like you say, Fortunato. He's a good pick. He was the same price during Vigiro, but he was just in a different category, and he was second in that. What was it? Stage 3 uphill finish in Burgos, only behind Sepkus, obviously, and Sepkus is 20 credits, so you can get 3 Fortunatos for the price of 1 Sepkus here. So I think Fortunato is good, and you just got a lot of stage hunters here. I think I like Walter and I like Zana as well. I'd say those are my top 3 ones from here, just because Walter, they've got Kuss and Eidsbrooks here, and then Wout to go in breaks as well. But I think that Walter's just he was 4th in the Olympic road race. Where the hell did that come from, firstly? And secondly, it just means that he's just a rider in their team who's likely to have freedom and has the qualities to do well in those stages. And then Zana was 11th in the Giro, so 6 credits is pretty good. He's usually 8 credits, so it's a little bit of a price decrease. I think that Zana's pretty safe. Everybody else is just, like you said, it's like throwing darts at a wall. Like maybe they could do well, but if they do well, it's not because of any sort of results that you've seen. You've just taken a punt. And
I mean, honestly, the safest one is Meinke's, because he's finishing 20th on GC already. So lock it in now.
Or like Tarame when he wins stage 4, because it gets
he'll get the breakaway red jersey.
Yeah, something like that.
Weirdly, Haig is pretty safe, but
he's
had a very off year, because he had that massive year a couple of years ago where he came 5th everywhere, and then he's kind of maybe burnt himself out, and he's just been working for everyone else since. So I think Haig and Harper are very good value at 6. And again, it's these guys you're going to have to be picking from. If you've got the 20 credit and 24 credit guys elsewhere. So
I think there's a few riders here which maybe Georgia's moved into this category rather than being in the unclassified. Like I swear I've seen Fortunato, Bouchard, Christian Rodriguez,
Tunes.
Walter, Oscar Rodriguez. I swear those guys have been in the unclassified before. And now they're here. So I think Georgia's done a little bit of reshuffling around, but that's enough for climbers. Moving on to the sprinters. I think we are both. I think we're both in a similar train of thought here, which is that Wout van Aert is probably going to be the highest scoring sprinter here, but the best value for money is actually Vacek.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. There's so many things. This is going to be the quickest category review ever because there's only two riders I care about, and I'm only really thinking about picking one of them.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a massive points difference between them, but Vacek and Wout are very similar riders, just at opposite ends of their career. I say opposite ends, not saying Wout's retiring, but he's like 7 years older than Vacek, I think. So I think they're very similar. There's hardly any sprint stages. It starts with a time trial. It's like, well,
It's
why
like
not?
Vacek. I don't get us wrong. Don't think we're on like some kind of like crazy gas. Vacek is not going to like start thrashing around Wout van Aert. It's just that Vacek is good at the same things as Wout van Aert. It's just that like
he could also survive a lot of the harder misc stages because Bittner. I like Bittner at 8 only because he won 2 stages at Burgos. So I immediately went to Bittner when this thing opened, and then I looked at the route again, and it's like, well, he's not. They're not going to be doing enough. Like I can't do the math off the top of my head, but there's a ceiling to how many points he can score because there's only so many sprint stages, and then Wout van Aert's faster than him anyway. Whereas with Vacek, you've got the fact he's versatile, so I'm just reiterating what Paddy said, which is that he is going to be as good on the same stages that Wout is.
Yeah, basically, the pure sprinters aren't worth it because there are 3 sprints, and they all come in the first week, which means that Caden Groves mathematically cannot be worth it. He just can't be. Because even if he wins all 3 of the sprints and gets the, daily points, like whatever classification points, he gets like 700 points at that point. 750 maybe at maximum. But
because he's got that inflation, because didn't he win?
Oh, he won loads last year.
Yeah, he won, but that's because there were like 6, 7 sprints last year.
Yeah.
Even Jeffrey Soup won a stage last year.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, Caden Groves should be an 8 or a 10. But I think it's that inflation that rules him out. And I wouldn't pick him for this Welter anyway. So
no, I wouldn't.
Much harder than last year.
My brain literally went, wow. Yeah, he's going to score loads. I mean, you could get into the maths of how well you think Wout's going to do or whatever, but Groves and Coquard are very similar. Like, they'll do well in the sprints, but there's only 3 of them. Bittner, Skelling, and Strong. Like, Bittner's the fastest, but again, he needs to win all 3 sprints to be close to worth it, and that's just too risky. Like, he probably won't win all 3 sprints. Maybe he will, but then you got the 6s where you could go with Feeney, to be fair, just for the time trialing as well.
Feeney, you could get top 3 on stage 1, and then GC points for like 2 days, and then plus whatever Wout does, plus whatever Kush does. But honestly, I was looking for him the whole time I was making my team. I was like, where is he? Roger Adria. Like, he was second to Ewan in the uphill sprint at Burgos. Now, which is incredible because Ewan has been so bad this year, and then he goes and wins a proper uphill sprint with no other sprinters in it. So he's going to get assist points for Roglic when he wins 6 uphill finishes, and plus the GC points because Roglic will probably be top 5 in that TT to start with.
Yeah.
Plus, he could do any if he's allowed, because Danny Van Poppel wasn't allowed to sprint whilst Roglic was on the tour until he crashed out. But there's no sprinters here. It's like, just let him have a go. Why not?
Yeah. When I look at all of these 6 credit riders, I can give an argument for most of them. Or like Canal is a pretty decent, like, versatile sprinter, but I can't get away from Vacek because
he's also done it before at like Hungary and Norway
I actually go look at his sprinting results. He has sprinted in, what was it, Barwell's Belgium tour. He was beaten by like Merlier, Philipsen, and I don't know, maybe like Gerber Tayson or something.
He's so strong.
Yeah, he's so good, and he's also good on rolling terrain. And like you say, he was climbing decently in Toro Norway, where he can get in those breakaways and contest those. And he's a decent time trialist. Like, he was 11th in the Olympics TT, and actually the shorter the TT, the better. That TT was probably a bit long for him. And I just think that Vacek could be top 10 in both the time trials, and he could
like go into, like, I'm not saying he's going to go into red, but if something crazy happens and Wout crashes on the run in to the sprint, say, and Vacek is within, like, let's say he's, he's in the bracket to go ahead of Tarling if he gets the 10 bonus seconds at the end, then
I think so. So
several hundred points for 6 credits.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I think also in Dan's, you either go with Wout or you go with Vacek.
I think Wout is the safe pick if you want to go, and also if you're there's so many Wout fans out there that they will just want to pick him anyway. But I think if we're being nerdy about this, Vacek's the pick.
Yeah, if you're being nerdy, Vacek's it, because Wout.
If you take this too seriously, Vacek's the pick.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. If you're if you're watching this video, you're gonna pick Vacek because you are a Velogames nerd. Or you could pick Wout and then put Vacek in as your wild card.
There you
go. Of both worlds.
There you go. Sorted. That's what I'm
Wout, Wout's going to top 5 all the sprints, barring catastrophe. He's going to probably top 5 the TTs. But then he then needs to get in the breakaway a lot, really, because that's not going to cover everything. He'll be out of GC at stage 4 because it's far too steep for him. So he's going to gain, let's say worst case scenario, let's say he averages like 3rd place for those TTs and the sprints. So he's going to get like, what's that going to be, like 150 times by 5? He's got 750. So he needs another 1,000 points. Plus the GC, and maybe like a little bit less, but he needs like 900 points. And he's going to need to get all that from breakaways. And that's quite hard.
Did he get that? Was it 2022 Tour when he won the green jersey?
Yeah.
2000. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He needs to basically repeat what he did in 2022. Yeah. And then he'll be worth it. But it's just also
where he's better than Vacek, I think, is that he can do those sorts of I'm saying Van der Poel-esque attacks, Van Aert-esque attacks where, just drops 1500 watts and drops someone on an uphill or something. But there's not many stages. There's a handful of stages like that. Like there's 2 or 3 that you could earmark as versatile sprinters / baradeurs stages. But and like we said, if you're being nerdy, he's not worth it. If you like him, he's worth it. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm saying it right here, right now. The first rider to hit 100 points per credit will be Vacek.
Yeah, I'm so proud of myself that I got the Gaviria and Turgi.
I was so
like, wow, yes, king.
After all that hype that I gave him, I was like, he's the best full credit when I didn't pick him, and he did really well. Anyway, let's move on to the unclassifieds. You got Jonathan Narvaez at 10, which is a lot.
I'm not sure he's worth 10, but I would pick him if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, he's in the same bracket as Vacek and Wout, but without the time trial.
Yeah, he's super dangerous. He's been so good this year. He's climbing incredibly well. He'll probably just get involved in the sprints just because why not? And
I think he's in an exceptional form as well, because I watched San Sebastian on delay, and I could not believe that he was climbing that 25% bit with McNulty and Alaphilippe. It was like, what are you doing? How are you here?
Navarez has gone up a gear this year. He is so good. So he's really good. Like, by all means, pick him. It's just at 10, he's going to need to score like 1,000 points. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but it's just if he was 8 credits, I would be fairly certain of putting him in. But 10, I don't know why, but that's putting me off just a little bit. But he is still a good pick. The 8 credits, these have always proven to be not worth it, usually. Derek G was an exception to this. You need a Derek G. You need somebody who's going to go for GC, who's, you need somebody who's basically should be an all-rounder, but who's been lumped in here.
For me, that doesn't count.
I don't see that person in here.
You don't see one?
No, I don't think so. I think Tarling is the absolute safe bet to get you 500 points by all means, but that's not the most efficient kind of use of credits. I think everybody else is just going for breakaways and stuff, really.
See, I see Lazcano just going for everything.
Yeah.
If Dauphiné, it was Dauphiné, wasn't it? If Dauphiné Lazcano shows up,
yeah,
he could top 10. Why not? I can't remember if he was at the Tour or not.
Yeah, he was. He was just
okay.
He was in like every break.
Yeah, he's just so strong.
Yeah,
he's like a Spanish Jorgensen.
This is the thing. I don't know if this is like controversial opinion, but I just think that Lazcano is so good at like one-day races or stage races, but for some reason, the 2 Grand Tours that he's done in the Tour this year and the Vuelta last year, he just hasn't performed.
No.
Like, I know he is still young, but he was 6 credits unclassified last year in the Vuelta, and everybody picked him. And I said
in the breakaways at the Tour that I
yeah,
I know he didn't win and he didn't win the KOM, but he won that prestigious award, the Souvenir.
oh yeah.
It was either Henri de Grange or Jacques Godet, and I've forgotten which one it is because one's the Pyrenees and one's the Alps. But he won up one of the mountains. He got the KOM, one of the biggest summits, and it's like how I'm not saying his physiology defies him, but he's a classic rider, and he was beating Gaudu up a mountain. So I think it just depends. And this Movistar have got so many options that he could either go for loads and be at that Jarrett G that suddenly he's like he could even be the guy that gets in breakaways, and then all of a sudden he's like 8th on GC. But also there's these steep finishes I'm not sure suit him too well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are quite a few rolly, like medium mountain stages which do suit him as well, for sure. So I think he could be really good. It's just that the last 2 Grand Tours he hasn't lived up to the hype, let's say. I think Pelayo Sanchez, also a pretty decent one. He was good during the Giro. He won that stage. I think there's also quite a few stages that suit him. And very similarly, I also think Mauro Schmid, he's also very suited to a lot of stages here. Lots of kind of up and down stages. He's been in good form in what was it, the Tour of Slovakia, and I think he was Czech Tour. I want to say that he did.
Yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then,
he's looking in good form.
Race in Norway.
And yeah, true. Oh yeah. So I think like all these guys are good picks. They're exciting picks, but always be careful that usually the 8s aren't always worth it. So just be aware of that. Then moving into the 6s, obviously there are so many to go at. So do you have any which you are specifically earmarking?
I'll give 3. Just there's so many, but to give 3. Clement Berthet, because he'll be top 15 on GC. Victor Campenaerts, because he will be doing well in the time trials. And Andreas Kron.
Yeah, I like Kron as well.
Because he's not going to go for GC, but he's perfectly capable of being like a Ciccone and hanging on to the GC group and then winning a sprint at the end. Potentially. Yeah,
I think there are lots of stages suited to Kron. And even like last year, do you remember? I can't remember. There was a stage late on where he finished like 3rd on a mountain stage. It was the same when Rich Poole was in there as well.
Yeah.
And Kron was top 3 on a mountain stage where he just shouldn't have been there. I was like, how's he done that?
Yeah.
So I agree. I think Kron's really good, especially with Van Eyckvolt pretty blatantly saying that he's going for GC, and he is the guy for their team. Kron should have his own freedom to maybe.
He's not a GC support rider.
Yeah, I think he'll have his own chance to do his own punchy sprints. So I think that Kron's really good. I like George Bennett because he's been very consistent in GC. I see him as being a bit like Berthet, and also Bennett was in like that front. He was like top 20 in San Sebastian. I think he was like top 15, so he was looking pretty good. I think I also like the puncher style riders, so I think that honestly Quentin Pacher 2 years ago in the Vuelta, he was so good. He got top 10 about 4 or 5 times. He got beaten by like Jesus Herrada on like a pretty tough finish. And I think there's a couple of those punchy sprints which like Kron will compete in. I think Pasher can do the same. And also I'll say, where is he? Harold Tejada, I like too. He's had some good results on punchy terrain. Honestly, it seems to be more of a puncher than a climber, actually, strangely
Yeah.
enough. And has a weirdly good TT. So odd.
Yeah, didn't he? He did. I swear he did well in the Dauphiné TT, but then I think that was quite rolling, so he had quite a few G. But yeah, the fact that first of all, the fact that a Colombian did well in a TT, and the fact that a climber like him did, because he's always been that kind of random character that just pops up in breakaways but doesn't actually do very much. But yeah. I mean, the field's so open here, he could very well do well on GC, win a stage maybe.
I think generally when you're looking at 6 credit riders for the Vuelta especially, you're looking at those breakaways because there's going to be quite a few, I expect. So you're looking really at either like those pure climbers like Berthet or George Bennett, or you're looking at those punchers who somehow really kind of excel outside of their like realm, and they start, they compete and they get like some random top 10s in, those punchy uphill sprints, but they also get involved in those medium mountain terrain stages. And yeah, I honestly think those 6 names that we said were really some of my favorite ones. You could go safe with the TTs and go with like Amarai, Asgreen. You could go just assist points with Paroncini, I guess. You could go Stefan Kung just for the TT, or the 2 of them, the 2 TTs. So that's like some safer ones you could go with for sure. But I really like the ones that we said. Torstein Tlen as well. Obviously, he won a mountain stage at Tour de Suisse this year. And with Taberi really being their big GC hope, you'd think that Bahrain would get involved in the breaks as well. Like they do get in breakaways quite a bit. So honestly, I think that's probably the shortest 6 credit bracket we've done. I think that's pretty much it. Pick the ones that we said there. And any falls?
There's a few random ones I like.
Yeah.
Like the kind that it's like if this will make sense to you, Vuelta picks where just some random guy in a breakaway gets third. Yeah. Like Berhe, I think is one of those, because I remember him. I wanted to pick him in the cycling fantasy game for that very early Mallorcan race that McNulty won, and there was a very steep like last 6K or something, and I swear he was top 10 in that or something. Like you had the Jayco full of Dunbar and Zana and all of these, and it's just this Ethiopian doing well. So I like Berhe. I don't know what he'll do, but he's a talent. Keplinger on Bahrain, because he's a random Austrian who I swear is like from triathlon or biathlon or something like that, who always does well. So it's just a name that always pops up in random races. And there was another one who I've now forgotten the name of. Vergalito, there you go.
Vergalito.
He's Alpecin's GC rider. He's quite old now. I think he's like 27 or 28, but he's just fine.
Because he came through like the Zwift Academy thing as well.
I have absolutely no idea who he is. All I know is he's just the random Italian on Alpecin that top 20s Italian classic races or something like that. I don't know. I mean, there's Umber is a decent one as well, but again, it's like South American on Astana. But there's just not very much to go on here, really.
No, there's not. There's no Anthony Turgis from the Tour.
No.
Right.
I mean, I just look at a lot of these names, and I don't mean this offensively. I just think I know who they are, but I've seen their names on start lists before, but they've never done anything.
Honestly, it's not a bad policy to go with. Look at the 4 credit riders and look for names that you recognize. Like if they are a big name, it's like we said, Anthony Turgis has finished on the podium of Milano San Remo, big time event. Such a name is 4 credits, and therefore he's probably like maybe a little bit undervalued because he's actually done really well in like a really big series, like a monument, for crying out loud. But when I look down here,
there's nothing.
I don't see those names which really kind of jump out at me. Like, oh yeah, I remember that person from that race. I remember Patilli top 10 in Stade, but then he also got beaten by like Davide Bais last year.
I swear Patilli, that stage, the rainy, I swear it was the rainy Swiss or Romany stage a few years ago that Geraint Thomas crashed trying to sprint against Woods. And I swear Patilli was like top 10, and he was in an interview saying, oh yeah, I want to become a GC rider. So I pretty much picked him for every race since then, and he's just disappeared off the map.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see.
I think a lot of these I actually see in like classics races, like Paquo, Ovsian, Milivojevic. That Croatian guy.
Yeah,
Plankart, like they're all kind of dot pro classics race guys doing like Het Hageland or something. So, but the thing is, I don't see many stages where you get that classic sort of Nikias Arndt, Oliver Narsson, Philippe Gilbert breakaway, because there's no real. There's what I think stage 2 or 3. I think it's stage 2. It's kind of lumpy, but it's just going to be a sprint stage. So I just don't see anything from here really. Like there's some really good young guys in here, like Garofoli and Germani. But again, they're so young. I've seen them on the start list the whole of this year. They haven't, in fantasy ways, obviously they're people, but they haven't delivered results that we've seen.
Yeah,
there's a reason they're full credits.
No, it is a fair point. To be fair, I think you are right. Berhe, how do you say it? He could probably,
at this point Dunbar or Zana.
Yeah, literally. When you look at their team, Schmid, Zana, Dunbar, like it's a team which doesn't have like, they're not here thinking like we are here for the podium. Like they're gonna have freedom to get in the breakaways most days. And I look at Berhe, and honestly, he was 15th on that mountaintop finish in Burgos. He was 11th in the Tour of Austria. He was 10th in GC at Volta Comunitat Valenciana earlier this year. Like he has done well in small races. He was 16th in the Tour de Suisse last year in GC, actually. Don't see any other 4 credit riders doing that at the moment. So there you go.
He is highly rated. I'm not saying I'm not going to claim it when he wins, does something, but he is at least a name I've heard of that has done well recently this year in that bracket.
So there you go. Wile Berhe is going to be the best 4 credit riders because, but not really by much.
The only other one, sorry, I've just recognised Jose Felix Parra. I'm pretty sure he did quite well at Volta Portugal.
Oh yeah,
Pedro told me to put him on my team, and I think he got like 200 points or something. So 200 points in 8 stages. That's all right.
Yeah, I think he was on the podium of the Alps Isère Tour earlier this year.
Yeah.
Which is so that's another name to go with. Anyway, got to the point now where I can reveal my team, even though it's been slowly revealed as I go down. It's I don't know. It's very GC orientated, is what it is. It's got Almeida, Yates, Del Toro, Carapaz, Vacek, obviously, Mr. 100 points per credit incoming immediately. I've got the 3 6 credit riders that I liked, and I got Skelmos. I'm quite tempted to go with like Roglic and then put on an 8. Like I am tempted to do. I just don't really like any of these loads. Like I would more likely go with a 6 or something, and then maybe go with an 8 here. Even though I was talking about the 8s not really being that great. So that's my kind of deliberation. Where do I go with Almeida? Like go with the 2 UEs of Almeida and Del Toro, or do I get Roglic in there and then sacrifice Del Toro down? What do you reckon?
I mean, I don't find any of your 6s particularly enthusing, but then I don't think many of them are. I just think there's so many GC stages. It's just pile all the credits into the GC and then grab a Fortunato or whatever. Yeah.
No, I do agree. Like I could go Lander here instead of Carapaz, I guess. But I don't actually think that Lander's that much better than Carapaz in terms of.
But it's this thing of the whole 2 credits difference thing is a bit weird because it's like to go back to Tour of Poland where we started. Merlier's 14, and Merlier was 12 and Coy was 14. It's like, well, just to save the extra 2 credits, go for Merlier, and then Coy, who's 14, wins. I haven't seen how it's affected results yet, but it's like not just because you think they're basically the same and you're saving 2 credits. It's like, well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so I could.
Sprinters are different to climbers because obviously the climbers need to be in form in the first place. But
I mean, also, I mean, going back to the Wout van Aert thing, if you're wondering why I don't have him in here, is because when you look at every single scoring of every single Grand Tour in every single Velogames, you see that the GC riders are the ones at the top. There is always the really good sprinter who's up there as well. But guess what, folks? There aren't that many sprints. So therefore, that sprinter person is going to have a hard time getting up there. Wout doesn't, if you look, the reason why Wout did so well on the Tour is because he could compete in those sprints. But when there's only 3 of them, he has to get into breakaways to win. And I just think that provides just too much uncertainty. Like, just because he makes it into a break doesn't mean he's automatically going to win. That's just my thinking. I'd rather go with Vacek and just go super low credits and then invest that massively into GC favorites.
I think even if Vacek doesn't score loads, I think the fact that you've got extra GC is going to be really advantageous.
But
you've basically got 1.5 riders more than people who have Wout.
Yeah, like in my eyes, I've got 2 people who could be on the podium here, and then I've got another 2 who could maybe be in the top 5. That's how I see it, and I think that's kind of the meta of Velogames, especially in the Vuelta. Like in the Tour, obviously the meta is kind of get that really good sprinter. Obviously, this year it's Girmay, so you could save those credits. But the year before that, it was Philipsen. You had to invest a bit more. So I don't know. That's why I'm not gone with Wout and just invested heavily in GC. But anyway, enough of my team. Who do you have at the moment on your team?
So I've gone Roglic, Yates, Fortunato, Harper, Vacek, Tarling. Even though I don't think he'll be worth the credits, I just need that stage 1 win. Berhe, Cron, and Almeida.
Nice. Wait, so you've got Roglic, Yates, and Almeida.
Top 3, yeah.
Really? Wow.
And then so I'm basically going for 2 cheap climbers, Fortunato and Harper. Just because I think I can't. Whenever I say I can't see past this such and such for the podium, it never works out. But I genuinely cannot see past Roglic, Yates, Almeida for the podium. I mean, I know the Vuelta always throw something up. But...
Well, so you got something like, obviously with some different people in there, but you got basically the big 3 and then just 6s. Everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I've got switching 6 unclassified for a 4, and then a 6 unclassified for an 8 in Tarling and Berhe.
Yeah. Okay.
But I could be clever about it. I've been clever in that I've done half the job in that I've taken Wout out for Vacek, but I haven't done it properly in that I've got Tarling who won't score 800 points. So
okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You've got to have a sort of a few nice picks you like, as well as doing this properly. Air quotes properly.
No, the thing is, it's not even like that bad of a strategy. It's just go for people who you think's got a podium. But I guess the thing which I did, which was different, is I went with 2 of the top 3. So I put like Skelmos on them, and I just spread those points over people to get like Lander in there instead. So it's kind of like, what do I think is better? Is it Lander and Skelmos, or is it whatever 20 credit rider, Yates or Almeida plus a 6? It's kind of what you think is going to be better. That's kind of like what it comes down to.
It's
really
just combinations, isn't it?
All it gets down to is combinations.
The thing is, at this level, we're always going, I can have this person or this person. But then when it comes to the race, it doesn't actually matter what the credits are. It's just whoever is going to be riding best. So it's it's tricky like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Any last words of advice for people if they're still
because
here?
it's the last stage, the last Grand Tour of the year. Honestly, just I know it should do this anyway. Just pick who you want, because I know there's going to be some people who comment saying, "Oh, no, you need to have WoW. WoW's going to do this. WoW's going to do that." It's like, great, fine, pick WoW. It's just like we're doing the nerdy thing of trying to do the maths, and in our little group, we're always in our Twitter group, we're always saying, "Oh, who's going to be the who's points per credits?" And PPC is probably the most written thing in our group.
Yeah, literally.
So it's like, you could have fun, or you could do the maths.
Yeah, that's true. I think my last words would be that whenever, like, the last few races, I just haven't. I've had a gut feeling about a rider, and then I haven't followed it, and then I've ended up regretting it. Like, I didn't pick Alaphilippe for San Sebastian, even though he was on my first drafts, because I talked myself out of it. And I was kind of thinking about Remco in the Tour, but I didn't go with him because I was like, no, that's not logical. But when I did follow my gut in Poland, I picked Thibaut Nace. And that went well. So basically, go with your gut feeling, because if you've been playing Velogames long enough, you probably got a good eye for who's good or not. Like, if you look at somebody and you go, that's underpriced, they probably are, and you should probably pick them.
Well, the thing is, that's my gut feeling with Gaudu. Gaudu's underpriced, but the problem is he's done nothing all year. So it's like, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be shuffling going on, but I do think this is the easiest Grand Tour to pick of the year, because with Giro we had Pogacar and then about 7 riders under that who could come second and third. At the Tour we had obviously 3 or 4 massive hitters, and plus sprinters. Whereas this one, you've got a fairly clear top 3 or 4, if you want to include Kuss in that, plus one standout sprinter, and then the rest is, pick and mix.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, anyway, let us know in the comment section down below what kind of teams you're thinking of going with. Any kind of option A or option B's going on. Those are always quite fun to see. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next video.